Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're covering Hell Mod's changes and balances to weapons. I'll be going down the mod document, starting with firearms and then moving on to melee weapons. First off, we have Pride of the Iskal, which has received several changes. First off, the damage has been changed from physical to corrosive. The primary direct hit damage was decreased from 11 to 10.45. The primary explosive damage was decreased from 22 to 20.9. Vampiric's max level damage has been increased from 240 to 720. And the number of projectiles fired per charge has increased from 4 to 8. These changes allow the weapon to benefit from the Wisdom trait, as well as making Vampiric an actual source of damage. You can actually run the weapon with a mod power setup and have Vampiric deal fairly decent damage. The buffed Bandit set was also quite fun to use with the weapon. The increased chance to return ammo, coupled with the blasts also being able to proc it, made it very hard for me to need a refill. Overall, these changes are quite fun. Twin Shot has gotten one small change that completely changes the weapon. It has been converted into a fully automatic weapon. This means you can either tap fire to shoot both bolts separately, or you can hold the trigger to fire both bolts very quickly. If you choose to run the weapon with the newly buffed Bandit set, you can get some very interesting results. The Mega Chain shots are very satisfying when they occur. The Alternator has received some buffs to improve various aspects of its functionality. The primary projectile speed has been doubled. It also now applies frostbite stacks. Incinerator's mod cost has been reduced from 900 to 650. There are also now 2 other variants of the weapon for sale at Macabre's shop for Dark Silver. Being able to apply frostbite and frozen with the primary fire is an amazing addition to the weapon. The increased projectile speed helps with aiming at more distant targets as well. And that cheaper mod cost for Incinerator helps out a lot, especially with the changes to groundfire mods. The Devastator has gotten a small buff to Skier's mod cost. It has been reduced from 640 to 320. Now you can spam fire bolts much more often when you're not dealing with the slow reload. Fusion Rifle has received several improvements to the gun's basic stats to make up for the inconsistency of its mod. The magazine capacity has been increased from 50 to 90. The ammo reserves have been increased from 400 to 450. The crit chance has been increased from 5 to 15%. And the reload speed has been decreased from 2.5 seconds to 1.875 seconds. These changes make the weapon a beast at clearing adds. I ran the weapon with a full crit setup and it was very fun. It certainly makes up for the mod's issues. The hunting rifle has received some positive changes. The ammo reserves have been increased from 50 to 60, and the spread increments and max spread have been reduced by 30%. These 2 changes bring the performance of the weapon up slightly. The reduced incremental and max spread help you to up your DPS while not hurting the accuracy as much. Both buffs for the weapon are quite nice. The Repulsor got a small helpful change. The debuff for Banish can now be refreshed on bosses. This is for those fights where managing the uptime of the debuff could cut into your potential DPS. I've always liked the Repulsor, so this is a very welcome change. Ruin has gotten a very special change, although it is currently up in the air if it will stay. Undying can now be unslotted from the weapon. This allows you to use whatever mod you wish. This also means that Undying can be slotted into any weapon. However, upon death while equipped on any other weapon, the user's game will crash. The devs are currently deciding how to move forward with this weapon. They may end up making a duplicate version of Ruin without the mod, similar to the different alternators. Either way, running Ruin with a free mod slot is very liberating. Anything to boost its damage up higher is always a plus. As for melee weapons, they have gotten many changes. Many basic non-elemental melee weapons have had their damage increased by a few points. I won't go over a majority of them, but I will list the ones that got significant changes. It is also important to note that some scaling issues and missing elemental tags on melee attacks have been fixed across the board as well. First up is Chainblade, which has received a series of buffs to make it better overall. The base damage has been increased from 40 to 60, the critical chance has been increased from 5 to 15%, the charge attack swing speed has been increased by 15% as well, and finally, the charge attack damage has been doubled. Combined together, these changes make the weapon feel as cool as it's always looked. The faster charge attack speed and double damage make it even better at dealing with groups of enemies. Hitting for over 2,000 damage on a crit hit all around you is very invigorating. Frostborne has received 2 small but very helpful buffs. The base damage has been increased from 50 to 55, and the damage has been converted from physical to frost. Together these bring it closer to the damage of the Scrap Axe. It also makes sense that the Ice Axe now does ice damage and can utilize the Wisdom trait. The Guardian Axe actually works now. As long as the player has Arcane Strike, Spirit Engine now functions properly. The increased mod power generation has also been increased from 2 times to 4 times. This is now an incredibly strong source of mod power generation. Even high mod power cost mods like Undying or Mender's Aura can be charged up very quickly. It's great to see this weapon finally being usable and effective. The Hero Sword has been given a buff to its charged melee strikes. Previously, the sword hitting them would deal very little damage. This change helps with issues where you are too close to an enemy and your beam would not damage them. Although your stamina is still consumed, your hit will deal some decent damage. Riven has received 2 changes to help it compete with the normal scythe. The life leech has been increased from 4% base damage to 6% base damage. The element has been changed from physical to radiation as well. Now you can heal for even more with each swing. And the elemental conversion will net you even more damage with wisdom leveled. Here I am face tanking Gorefist on hell difficulty. The increased leech certainly makes a difference in the end. Worldbreaker now deals radiation damage. Because of the knockback mechanic, you would often miss out on follow-up hits. The increased damage from wisdom allows the weapon to compete with the other 2 hammers. World's Edge has been beefed up to be the weapon worthy of earning at the end of the 29-23 DLC. The base damage has been increased from 45 to 52. The swing speed has been increased by 15%. The non-projectile damage from charge attacks has been tripled. The projectiles also last longer and hit much more frequently. These changes make the charge attack have incredible damage potential. You can easily wipe out groups of enemies at a time with a single charge attack. In boss fights like Singe's, you can actively deal with him and the adds at the same time. Not to mention the absolute insane mod power generation the weapon grants now. I was able to charge Mantle and Howlers with such ease I didn't even realize they were charged half the time. I'd go as far to say it's my new favorite melee weapon now. And that covers all the weapon changes in the Hell mod. They are all pretty great and certainly help to bring many of them up to snuff for the Hell difficulty. Next week I'll be covering the boss changes and the roaming bosses. As always, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.